Strolling Thunder is an annual event hosted by 0 to 3 that brings families from all 50 states and Washington, D.C. to Capitol Hill, where the families meet with their representatives and discuss what they and their babies need to thrive. The issues families spoke to their members of Congress about don't just go away. Today's event brings 4 of our families back together so that we can learn more about the issues facing their families and discuss what they want to hear from candidates as we're just now over 30 days from the election. As a reminder, 0 to 3 is a nonpartisan organization, and our work focuses on promoting policies that promote good health, strong families, and positive early learning experiences. We do not endorse candidates or specific legislation. This forum is designed to spark conversation about specific issues that impact families and their babies. We ask that everyone remain muted and post your questions and comments in the comments section and questions for the panelists in the question and answer feature. If you're a member of the media, please post your questions in the Q&A feature and indicate your media outlet. Throughout our brief conversation, we'll respond to the questions in the Q&A, and we'll give media members in attendance today the option to ask their questions in the order they were received towards the end of our conversation today. And with that, I'd like to introduce Miriam Calderon, our Chief Policy Officer with 0 to 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Strolling Thunder Family Town Hall event. Again, as Joe noted, this is the final of 3 discussions that we are hosting with families to talk about the issues that matter to them. I'm really, really honored and grateful that we have 4 families with us today, again, who you're going to meet in a moment, who've taken time out of their busy lives to really share their stories and help us all learn from their experiences with the cost of raising young children in our country today. Again, these families are leaders and advocates who share that experience of having participated in Strolling Thunder and traveling to Washington, D.C. and advocating for policies that would benefit families with young children. This election, we know, is critical, and issues about the economy and rising costs are top of mind for many people, especially and including our families with young children. So we want to make sure that we keep a spotlight on these issues, and that what you talked about with your policymakers and your elected leaders, right, continue to be top of mind during this election. Just a few weeks ago, the U.S. Census Bureau released new data showing that 15% of children under the age of 6 living in America live in poverty. Poverty and low-income status remain the most striking demographic of babies in the United States. The difficulties with work and parenting and still being able to make ends meet is a frequent concern we hear about from families with young children. I want to now turn to all of you to introduce yourselves, and then we're going to dive into these issues, and you're going to help us all hear more about what you want policymakers to know and to do about it. So Jessica, I want to start with you, and please introduce yourself and tell us about your family.
Hi, so I'm Jessica Darris. I live in Florence, Massachusetts with my husband and my son, Emmett, who is 4 years old. And currently I work in higher education.
Thanks, Jessica. So glad you're here. Chloe?
Good morning. My name is Chloe. I'm a Latino family from Orange County, California. We are a family of 6. I have 4 boys. Their ages are 14, 13, 11, and 4. My youngest, my 4-year-old, he just got diagnosed with autism. And I work at the local university, and my husband is a plumber. Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. Amber?
Hi.
Oh, looks like you got muted again. Why don't we go to Tanisha, give you a minute to try to figure out what's going on there. Tanisha, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Tanisha. I have a 2-year-old named Jaden. I'm currently in school for clinical and mental health. And I also work with kids who have autism as a registered behavior technician. Me and my partner, we are a family. So, yeah. that's just us, just the three of us.
Thanks, Tanisha. Thanks again for being here. Amber, how is that? Are you able to unmute? Yep, there we go. Great.
Hi, I'm Amber Summers. I'm from Salem, Illinois. We are a foster family. We have 2 fosters who are both 16, and then I have a 10-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I am a caregiver to the mentally disabled.
Thank you, Amber. Thanks again to all of you for being here. So excited and for this discussion, and again, grateful for you all taking the time out of your busy lives. So Amber, I want to actually start with you. When you came to Strolling Thunder in 2023, you told a story that was really about COVID and hard work. Would you mind sharing that story with us today?
Yeah. When COVID struck, we were foster parents. I was caring for 2 children with significant special needs and experiencing a high-risk pregnancy. I was on bed rest, in and out of the hospital, and I had to quit my job. Then Tim got sick with COVID and he couldn't work. And despite following the protocols and bringing in doctor's notes, he lost his job. And in the pandemic, he looked for work for a long time before he was able to go back. We faced the possibility of eviction.
I'm so sorry to hear that, Amber, and I appreciate again you sharing that story with us. I know that in 2021, Congress passed the expanded refundable child tax credit that reached families with children all across the country. We know that that was pretty important for your family at that time. Is there anything you want to share about that?
The advanced child tax credit helped pull our family out of poverty for such a short amount of time. We live in a small area, so that money to my family was a house payment, another month to stay in our home. Using those funds and eventually getting Tim back to work, we were able to get ourselves out from under the threat of eviction. And my family is in a really different place now. We have saved and worked very hard, and we have paid off our house. Tim works 2 jobs, and we are back at work. Well, I'm back at work as well.
Wonderful, thank you. So I want to bring all of you in kind of to this policy around the child tax credit. We know it was successful in, the data show now, as we've analyzed the impact of the child tax credit, that it was really successful in lifting millions of children out of poverty in our country. We also know that it's bringing it back is really popular, right, with families of young children. We've done our own polling to be able to show that families, who voted for Trump in 2020 or voted for Biden in 2020, so popular in red and blue states, right, with Republican and Democratic voters, really support bringing back the expanded child tax credit and think it should be a priority for our policymakers. So I want to invite you all to come jump in here. If you all had the child tax credit back, what would you use it for? And Tanisha, why don't we start with you?
Yes, so definitely I would be using for my daughter Jaden. She's potty training, so we're kind of getting out of like pull-ups and stuff. So she's ready for extra clothes, panties and all of that because she's there now. But it will also be like cushion for us, so we can go on vacation. Like it's very difficult for us to go on vacation, and I want her to be able to do that at this age as well. Even though she's 2, she can still have some type of core memories of going on vacation, and it would just allow us that cushion to be able to do so.
Absolutely. Have those amazing family experiences. Thank you, Tanisha. Jess, how about you?
Yeah, so we had used that money for things like diapers and human milk fortifier for my son Emmett. And now that he's 4, those needs have sort of changed for us. So we would really love to do more extracurricular activities with Emmett, things like, soccer or swimming, and even honestly, just helping us with preschool tuition payments would be super helpful for us. I know that people would do all different sorts of things with this money for their children, and all of our kids are so unique that it would really benefit us.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Jess. Chloe?
I agree with Tanisha and Jessica. My kids want to do extracurricular activities. I want to put Diego, my littlest one, into T-ball, but with the registration fee, then you have to buy the pants, the belts, the cleats, the socks. It's just I don't have that type of money, and it's important for me, these extracurricular activities, so that my children where my children don't have a safe place right now outside of my home to play. It would also help with putting nutritious food on my table. I'm behind on my electricity. It's hot in the summer. My kids need to be in an air conditioned house, and I'm behind $1,000 on my electricity, and I'm getting, notices. I also dream about moving from where I live to a safer neighborhood, but I can't afford the $2,000 to $2,000 to $2,500 security deposit.
Thank you for sharing that, Chloe. I want to come back to you in a moment and talk a little bit more about those issues. Amber, is there anything you want to add?
We're still living paycheck to paycheck here. We took on extra kiddos, and even without our mortgage, it's still a challenge to get by. I want to do a quick side note. There's a ridiculous idea that foster stipend pays for the kids in foster care. In reality, the reality is that we're spending our own money even to take care of these kiddos. So I just wanted to note that. And then for a few years, Noah, my son who has autism, had weekly occupational therapy, and it helped him learn basic grooming, daily skills, and we soaked it up. We really enjoyed it. I learned as much as I could from it, to be able to help better care for him. And now our insurance does not want to pay for it. So we really want to have that back. We need that resource. So the CTC would definitely help to do those things and have those resources for my special needs kiddos that we have here. He was learning how to dress himself, and in a few years he will need OT for life skills and how to learn how to, cook a simple meal and do his laundry.
Thank you. Yeah. So important to hear you all just talking about how that extra little bit and that cushion and the flexibility of being able to really use it for your different family needs is just so important. Chloe, I want to come back to you and ask you to say a little bit more about housing. And your experiences there. When we talk a lot with many families, they tell us about how housing is such a huge cost, right? That is really contributing to a lot of, the struggles to make ends meet, even when, everyone in the household is working. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, it's so true. So I live in my apartment. I've been here about 12 years. I've lived in La Habra for basically all my life. And so me growing up, I was able to go outside and ride my bike and play basketball outside in the summer in the neighborhood. So I thought this would be a great place as well for my kids. But the housing is no longer safe where I live. Our rent is super cheap. I say in the barrio. I live on the cheapest street in the city. But during COVID, our next door neighbors, which we share walls, their children became gang members, and it's not safe. So about 2 years ago, one of them was shot and killed down the street. And it was hard for my kids. It was hard for me because of retaliation. And we slept in our living rooms because our bedrooms share the same wall. And it's just sad where I got to tell my kids, how to act, what to look for in case there's, cars that go by that are going slowly. They can't safely. I live right across the street from a park, and I have to tell my kids, how to be safe, how to run away. And because our housing is so cheap, nothing gets fixed. Our bathroom tub has it's like broken and the mold gets out of there when it's showering, and it's just nothing gets fixed. And it's hard. I can't move because rent is expensive. I can't afford that extra $500. Even to try to save for the security deposit is hard. And the CTC would really help me get my kids just to live in another part of the city where they could thrive and be safe, and they don't have to have that notion of if something's going to happen.
Thank you, Chloe. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Tanisha, I want to turn to you too, as I know you also have a really important story to share with around housing. Is anything you want to add to what Chloe was just sharing?
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely feel where she's coming from. I know growing up with my experience, my parents lived in Jersey and they wanted a better life for us because it was so much crime and stuff going on up there. So we moved down here to Georgia, but we struggled with a lot of homelessness for years. My mom was trying to find affordable daycare for me and my sister, but not just affordable, but also somewhere where she felt like we were safe. And that has been a constant concern, growing up. So as I had those challenges growing up, I wanted to have better for my daughter, and even though I feel like I'm doing so much to get to a better place, I went into the Navy. My partner, he's National Guards, and he actually yeah, he's National Guards. I'm sorry. Yeah, he's National Guards, and he was in there for 12 years. And, I got my bachelor's degree in psychology. I'm also working for my master's in clinical and mental health. But, I don't get paid to do like the internship and stuff for that. And even though I work with kids with autism, I have to have a client, and I only have a couple of days to even work that because I'm doing my internship. So even though we are doing the right things, trying to serve our country, trying to, get a better education, a higher education, he has his bachelor's as well. It just seems like it's hard, it's difficult to, just keep our head above water. So I really, it's a struggle. It's a struggle for sure.
It's amazing, Tanisha, and congratulations on all of your accomplishment, being in and getting a master's degree right now, and balancing all of that in work and parenting. It's just amazing. Like, how are you guys making it work? Is there anything more you want to share about like how you're able to make ends meet?
Yeah, he definitely has his job, but we're also Instacarting when we can. I've been looking to find a position, with clients, but it's very difficult because we don't get paid if we don't have a client. It's not like a full-time position where you can go in and still get paid. It's hourly pay, and it's based on clientele. So if I don't have a client, and right now, because of the days, like I only have a couple of days to even work, the clientele is needing 5 days a week, for their kids with autism. And it's not working with my schedule because I have to do, my internship. So right now, my partner, he's working, and he works 6 days a week. And he also Instacarts as well as me Instacarting, and then, taking care of our daughter. So it's definitely been a struggle just to make ends meet. And the fact that, I'm in school, that's even more debt that I'm collecting and can't, so it's definitely a struggle. And I just hope that, we can get some type of economic security for our family, so that we won't keep having to be in this position.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing some comments in the chat here. It's like really important point, how difficult these, unpaid internships are, right? And I think something, you know, a real is a real barrier. I know I've had to do that as well, different points in my life to be able to, and particularly for my master's degree. Okay, I want to turn now to you, Amber. I know you have if you want to add on anything here around like how you're really able to make ends meet right now. And I know you're working really, really hard, as you started to share about ways to get you and your family ahead.
Yeah, so I'm working, I have a job. My husband has two jobs. We're doing lawn care on the side. I'm helping my husband do lawn care on the side. I do voluntary paid training at work so that I'm making more money. And we've even had to resort to thinking about donating blood to make ends meet.
You, Amber, Jess, anything you want to add here?
Yeah, so my husband and I are very fortunate that we both have full-time jobs, and it's still not enough for us. So my husband actually sacrifices and has taken on a second job where he works nights. So we both work in higher education, but he works nights at the grocery store to try to help us make ends meet and pay bills. And yeah, it's gotten to the point where my 4-year-old, you know, is starting to understand that dad's not home some nights, and he's confused and doesn't understand why we have to have this schedule change every couple of days and why we're not all home together.
Jess, I just ask you to also talk a little bit about, I know an issue you've brought up and raised with us, which is like how early childhood is a time of so much change. And really, you know, not all of this is right, so predictable, right? And I think a lack of economic security really can create even more circumstances, right, around that unpredictability. You want to tell us a little bit more about your story and
Yeah.
some of that unpredictability? Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2019, my husband and I decided we were ready to start a family, and we got pregnant pretty quickly. And I had a great pregnancy. I was feeling great, probably the best I've ever felt. And then 2020 happened, right? The COVID pandemic hit in March. And come May of 2020, I was diagnosed with severe preeclampsia, which turned into severe HELLP syndrome when I went into liver and kidney failure, and was basically giving birth unconscious. And my son was born 7 weeks early, completely unexpected. We were transferred to a hospital we didn't plan to give birth in. We had to take an ambulance ride. Just, you know, we thought we were going to have what everyone imagines, which is like a picture perfect pregnancy and those social media photos, and everything quickly turned into a life or death situation for us. My son ended up spending several weeks in the NICU. And at the time, I only had 8 weeks of unpaid leave at my job. And so once I was healthy enough, my husband and I had to make a really tough decision on work. Those were 7 weeks. My son came early where we didn't have paychecks coming in. And we weren't really sure when, and to be honest, if my son was going to come home from the hospital. And so we had to make the decision, do I go back to work or do I take my leave now? And so we made a really difficult decision that I would go back to work right away and save up my unpaid leave for when my son was to come home from the hospital. And so I had to make that sacrifice the day after I left and was discharged from the hospital. So the day after, I would spend my days waking up early. I would pump around the clock to be able to feed my son, bring my milk to the NICU. I would work before the sun came up. I would try to go to the hospital before lunch hour, try to make doctor's rounds, try to learn about how my son was doing. I would try to stay for at least one feeding if possible. It wasn't always doable. I'd have to go back to work right away. I would sometimes, even skip dinner to go back to the NICU and spend time with him before visiting hours ended. This was a point in COVID where only one parent was allowed to go to the NICU at a time. And so my husband and I, we would share information back and forth with each other, but we really were not learning how to care for our son at the same time. And it was really hard. It was really isolating. My son has, over the years, he's thriving, but being born early, having really fragile lungs. He was also born under 3 pounds, so he was significantly underweight. We've had some health challenges along the way, and we have incurred so many bills still from when he was transferred, or when I was transferred via ambulance to the hospital. And we, spend every month sort of picking and choosing what we can pay this month and what we can't pay. And those medical bills have really, really added up for us in a really unexpected way. I don't think we all know, how our birth or labor and delivery is going to go, but ours went, I could have never imagined going through what we had gone through.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Jessica. Really, I identify a lot with your story. I had twins in the NICU and had a really difficult pregnancy and bed rest. And my son also had some lung issues. And I had a very supportive employer, really strong health insurance, and, a short-term disability, paid parental leave and things, and a family that cared for me, an extended family that was able to help support me and take care of me while I was on bed rest. So I have to say, I'm so thrilled to hear that your son is healthy and thriving now, and mine is too. I just dropped him off at college this weekend, so it goes by fast. And so thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I know one of the things that is talked about a lot, and it's being talked about a lot in even in this election, is the rising costs, how expensive things are. And we know that there are some particular costs, right? Like, as you all have touched on already, around raising very young children, right? And being and as a family, can you really talk about that? What are the costs that you're seeing that are particularly significant for families with young children? And Tanisha, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, definitely for us, it's childcare, especially when she was younger, and it still is expensive to this day. But it is so difficult to even get like the subsidies that we wanted to receive, because you either have to make a very low income, very, very low income. And even though, there is now a 2 household income, it wasn't previously. So I was on a wait list for, for things like Head Start, early Head Start, and it was difficult trying to even get that. But we were able to do so now. Thank goodness. But yes.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Tanisha. Don't we go, Chloe? Do you want to add on to that?
No, I agree. I agree with Tanisha. Diego also went to early Head Start and Head Start, and we didn't make the income threshold, but because Diego had a disability, I mean, thank God, we were able to get that quality daycare from Head Start. But just since Diego has autism, usually children with disabilities, it takes them longer to potty train. So we're still, buying diapers, the wipes, the food. Food is so expensive. My kids go through food. But yeah, those are the things that that just the costs are just it's the rising. Our rent also went up twice this year. And I'm just like, how much more can it go up with where I live?
Thanks for sharing that, Chloe. Amber?
Meeting basic needs right now is just so expensive. Housing is a huge cost for everyone. Doesn't matter where you are. plus food. And for babies, diapers, wipes, formula. My best friend works all the time. And once she pays her rent, her car, and her health insurance, she has $100 to feed her and her children for the rest of the month.
Thanks, Amber. Jess, gonna add anything here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Massachusetts. The cost of childcare is astronomical. You know, preschools around here, it's an entire mortgage to send your kid to school every month. I think, you know, it's comparable to in-state tuition at our state college. It's astronomical.
So all of you, I think, are really talking about, you know, this having to juggle, right? These you know, trying to live this very planned life, trying to, you know, live within really, really tight margins and budgets and try to make it all work. And kind of the stress of that as well, and just how unrealistic, right, that is to just be able to plan with and you know and not have kind of these cushions for emergencies and things. So tell us, you know, a little bit more, like, what are some of these, you know, unforeseen things that you feel like become really, really challenging for you as you then think about, right, being able to kind of hold it all together and juggle it all. Tanisha, your thoughts there? You want to kick us off?
Hello, can you all hear me? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
you sound great.
yeah. Previously, talking about before, like my wage fluctuates all the time if I don't have a client. So that's been extremely difficult. You just even trying to find a client around my availability because I am, you know, doing school as well. So I think that has really been one of the biggest issues for me.
Thank you, Tanisha. Amber?
I'm sorry, can we recap what we
Yeah,
were
just
asking?
what are some of those you know, unexpected or
Oh,
unforeseen things? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, illness, pregnancies, accidents, emergencies, car repairs, things can pop up at any time. Those are definitely some unexpected things. You
Mhm.
can have savings in the bank, and then one of those things happen and wipe out your savings. CTC is a cushion when you have young kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Jess, anything to add here?
Yeah, I think for me, it's also about the mental health aspect of it. So, you know, for me, I went through a lot of postpartum depression and anxiety around my son being in the NICU and just the unknown. But, you know, even being home with our children, I mean, all of our children deserve parents who are present, who aren't just sitting there anxious and worried about how we're going to get the bills paid, right? We shouldn't have to be playing with our kids and also have this worry in the back of our mind that, you know, we can't even take care of ourselves, right? We can't afford to, you know, handle, you know, the cost of going to therapy, taking the time out of work to go do those things. Our children deserve so much from us. And so many of these issues just take up so much of our capacity and worry. It's not fair. It's not fair for our children.
Absolutely. Chloe, how are you? You anything you want to add here?
Yeah, just food when your car repairs. Yeah, it just we really need to have that CTC comprehensible just to help our families thrive.
Yeah. And thank you, because I know all of you have been, you know, using using the power of your stories and taking time and meeting with your members of Congress and advocating for the child tax credit. And we look forward to continuing to be able to support you in that and all of that you've done there. I want to, we have a couple questions in the chat now. I want to encourage folks who are participating in this town hall to please put your questions in the Q&A chat. And If members of the media as well, please either raise your hand or put your questions in the chat. So we have I think the first two questions that we have are both kind of related to cost of childcare, early childhood education. And so one question is wondering about experiences with some of the subsidized or publicly funded programs, right? We have vouchers, scholarships, programs like the federal Head Start program and early Head Start program. They have very specific income eligibility requirements often when we have publicly funded early childhood education programs. So anything you want to add around your experiences there? And then the related question is, we do hear, and you all touched on this, that the child tax credit can be used, right, to help with some of those costs. But, and does that, what's your experience like with using it, if any of you have using it to cover that? How much does it help? Does the child tax credit, really make the difference on whether you can have your child participate in an early childhood education program? So just any experiences with accessing these publicly funded programs and then using child tax credit. So anybody want to jump in first?
I guess I would speak about early Head Start. Definitely that was something that we were looking into, and we actually got into a school that is tuition based and it's also early Head Start as well. So utilizing that really has helped us financially, and also my partner, he's able to get subsidies from his job as well to lower the payment of our child care, which has been extremely helpful. And as well as the child tax credit, I had just missed it in 2021 because my daughter was not yet born. And that was a huge impact. So when I did receive it, that really.
Oh no, okay. We lost Tanisha. Hopefully she'll be back on in a minute. Anyone else want to add anything here on this?
So it's a little bit different for us, on paper. I think my husband and I, we might look great having two incomes to some people. We're really fortunate. My son's school does offer us a very generous financial aid package. And so that is one of the reasons why we're able to send him there. But it's still the cost of a mortgage, somebody's mortgage. It's, a lot of money every month, even with that financial aid.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Jess. Tanisha, you want to finish your thoughts there? We lost you for a moment. Welcome back.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's because I'm in my car, so that's why.
No
But
worries.
definitely for sure. It was like I was saying, his subsidy has helped us with like the child care costs, still expensive, and I feel like receiving the child tax credit now, because I didn't receive it previously, it would be very beneficial to us. So.
Thank you for sharing that. Tanisha, have you come across any programs that that would help subsidize the cost because you are a student and a full-time student, or have you come across any programs like that in your community? I guess that make you eligible because you are in school and working for your child to be able to participate in early childhood education. If not, that's something that we sometimes see in communities and definitely help with that. I guess, how do you, this is sort of also another part of this question is are your any experiences with helping try to find these programs or learn about them, or what barriers do you see programs specifically around, ways to help afford childcare, reduce childcare costs, or participation in early childhood education? Or maybe just in general, where do you see, there's, I think, another question in the chat. How do you find out about different family supports in your community? We've touched on nutrition and food support, or even housing supports, or like these programs like Head Start. Anybody want to jump in there?
So I live in the western part of Massachusetts. And so when people think about Massachusetts, I think they always think about Boston and the
Mhm.
eastern half of the state. And I'll say that a lot of those resources or organizations are usually focused in the Boston area. So, a lot of those organizations and folks that you talk to, their knowledge really is not our part of the state. It's really towards Eastern Mass. And so for us, it's a little bit hard to get in touch with organizations because there's really not a lot out here. Um, and it's usually geared towards those cities.
Mhm. So not seeing that kind of the same level of supports, right? Available to all
I can
communities.
agree with that.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah,
agree with
go
that. So I'm in Illinois. Everyone thinks Illinois, they think Chicago. Chicago is like a whole different country from Southern Illinois where we're at. And just lack of resources. I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Chloe, anything to add?
No, I agree with both Amber and Jessica. It's trying to find the resources. And the resources that are available are usually during the working day. So it's like, do I work or do I go to the food bank? Which which one do I go to? With me, thankfully, Diego was able to get into early Head Start, but there was a wait list. So in that time that I wasn't, I had nobody to help me watch him. So I had to take off work until he was able to get into early Head Start. And it was just hard because of the shortage of the teachers. And it was just a long wait list. It's very long.
Yeah, we know that many of these programs, right, as we're talking about the funding provided, either at the state level or at the federal level, often they don't go far enough, right, and being able to support and reach all the families that are eligible for them. So, Jess, you're talking about it's not reaching all the communities in a particular state. One of our top priorities. Where Congress and the federal budget is growing the Early Head Start program. It reaches only about 11% of infants and toddlers who live in poverty. So we know that we need more investments here and be able to, expand these programs and help them truly be able to reach all the families and children that could benefit from them. Tanisha, anything you want to add here? And I know, feel free to stay off camera if I know you're having some connectivity
Yeah.
issues, whatever works for you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, definitely for sure that the subsidies that are allotted, like in Georgia, you really have to be extremely low income. I mean, at the poverty level in order to get like free childcare. So even when I tried to, when me and my partner were not together, even when I tried to, with the little income that I was receiving, try to go in and get those subsidies, they didn't even allot me that because you had to make such a low level of income. And it's really unfortunate that even though there are resources for people, you literally would have to be making next to nothing in order to receive it. And that really affects a lot of people because you know, you may not be in a certain financial bracket, but you're still struggling to make ends meet. And it would be beneficial if those things could be allotted to people who are still, in a financial bracket but still struggling. So definitely for sure.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank everybody who from the town who was able to put questions into the chat for the town hall. I know we're coming up a little bit. We're coming up close to the end here, so I really want to give you all an opportunity to kind of give each of you to take a couple moments and really give your final kind of concluding thoughts here. And I want you to really think and include in that as we think about solutions, right? And where we started in an election, you all have had this experience of talking to policymakers, telling your story, advocating for policies that will really make a difference for families with young children. So if you had a message that you want to give the candidates, right, about this topic of economic security for families with infants and toddlers in our country, and what is something they could do? What are the solutions that you see, right, that would help you in raising, all the issues that we've touched on today? What would that be? So, what's your message, for our elected leaders around the solutions that will help families? I'm gonna ask, why don't we start with Jess here, and tell us your concluding
Yeah.
thoughts.
So my husband and I were really lucky, right? We are both college educated. We both have full-time jobs. We have a lot of family support that helps us. But even that is still not enough, right? We still struggle. We're in debt. You can save and save and save, and something could go wrong in an instant and everything could be wiped away. I think for us, having paid family medical leave would have been super beneficial for us, and I know beneficial for families moving forward. That is something I would really love to see put in place to help protect families and children.
Thank you so much, Jess. Chloe, why don't we go to you? It's your message.
My message is that the CTC was life-changing, not just for me and my family, but other families who I know personally. And I really think that the CTC should be available to all children, including those with ITINs, to families with low or no income. They should receive the full credit. So it's so important for families, babies, toddlers to thrive. And this would just help be part of that solution.
Thank you, Chloe. Amber?
I'm here. Okay, so my family has lived in 4 generations of poverty. The CTC can help families come out of poverty so our children have a better future to look forward to. It is financial security where there was none, and it is worth it because our babies are worth it.
Yes, thank you, Amber. That was great. That's known as the quick elevator speech, right? If you caught your candidate in the elevator, right? That was wonderful. Thank you. Tanisha, how about you? What's your solution or message?
Yeah, definitely what I was mentioning before is, if there is assistance that is available, it needs to be available not just where we're hitting rock bottom to receive it. It needs to be available because whether you're middle class, lower class, upper class, there's going to be some type of struggle, emergency, whatever that could happen that can put you in a financial deficit. So I think it's imperative that, these policies be in place for people, even if you are in middle class. And, moving forward, because childcare is so important and childcare is necessary for us to work as well, there needs to be policies put in place that allow childcare to be free, to be honest, because we do have to work and we do have to provide for our kids. So that would be my message. And definitely the CTC is extremely important for our family, and I know for many other families.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Tanisha. That was wonderful. So I'm hearing more support for early childhood education, childcare, Head Start, early Head Start, preschool, housing, the child tax credit, paid leave, right? These are policies, fortunately, we know are getting attention, right? And are really being talked about in this election. So I really want to thank all of you for telling your stories, taking again this time to be with us, everything that you're juggling is it just, I think, and that we've heard and that you shared today, just really even, you know, just speaks to, I know, the commitment that you have, right, to be able to push for these policies that really will make a difference, not only for your own families, but for families all across the country. So thank you truly for sharing your stories. We know that some of that what you're doing here today, you know, sharing these stories that you know, are really, or like the experiences of so many families across the country, and keeping them top of mind and keeping them, you know, trying to elevate them with our policymakers in this election is what it's going to take, right, to be able to get these policies enacted. So your honesty, your clarity, your strength is and your bravery, right, and courage for being able to share your experiences with us in the hopes of change is truly appreciated. I know by everybody that's tuned into this town hall today. I want to encourage everybody that is feeling inspired, that learned something, to remember to vote in this election. We see these issues again as huge election issues, and we're all going to need to turn out, continue to tell our stories, lift up the stories, these incredible family leaders and advocates, and push for these changes. I think we can get this done, right? And it starts with voting and really being able to show the power and support and the difference that these policies can make across our country. So I want to thank everybody for joining today. Thank you for all of the support to these incredible families, leaders, and advocates. And I hope you all had a chance to look at the chat too, because you got a lot of love and support in the chat, and also some information and resources. So thank you again. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be posting the videos from these town halls. So others, you can share them and help spread the word. Again, thank you so much, everybody. Remember to think babies and vote in this election. And we really appreciate everyone tuning in today. Have a great rest of your day.